So okay, now we're going to do this topic, how to face death. Very interesting for most people to see how to face death in the Buddhist context also. So how to face death. Okay, all of us, death, this is perfectly natural. I mean, it's the end of our life. As our life ebbs away, as we have to face death, then it's natural to feel fear. I mean, if you don't feel any fear, then actually something is wrong with you. So if you feel afraid, you feel fear, it's perfectly natural. So, but we must also understand that death is part of life. Of course, once we are born, we will have to die, not only for us human beings, but for all beings in existence, all beings in samsara, heavenly beings, even included. Those reborn in hell, they also will eventually pass away and be reborn again according to their own karma. So for human beings, we must understand this is very important, that death is part of life. Once we are born, surely we will have to die. It's just natural process, nothing much more than that. So no one can escape death. Everyone on earth now, within a few decades, everyone on earth will be dead, will have to pass away. Then the new generations and new people will come in, they will pass away, and then this goes on throughout human civilization. So no one can escape death, and it is something all of us have to face one day. So it's better to be able to face it directly rather than to shy away, because most people, as you can imagine, you talk about death, all are going to hear about it, all scared, right? I think the general feeling is that it's very superstitious, bad luck to even talk about death. So generally people shy away from these things. Even for that matter, growing old also, most people really try to avoid. Like I know somebody 70 plus years old, but he say, I'm still very young. Of course you are not, you are 70 years old, but if you try to deceive yourself into thinking you are 20 something or 30 something even, then it is really hard to face the truth, right? So for Buddhists, of course, we will try to face this directly, because it is only through facing your fears, through facing the truth directly, can you overcome such things. So for, some people, they think that they are young all the time, but when the time comes which they really know that they are old, then it is hard for them to accept. So it's better for us actually to gradually accept this fact of life, because it's a fact of life, you can't get away from it. Old age, sickness, death is a part of life. So, but the thing is that everyone faces death differently. Some face death in great pain or with great fear. Some will cling on very fiercely. They don't want to die. They really are fearful of death. They are not willing to let go of everything that they have. However, a few people manage to face death in peace and even perhaps happiness. So the thing is that how can we ensure a peaceful death for ourselves? Because this is actually a very great blessing. We all have to die, but it's a manner of your dying that we all fear. It's a manner of dying. Dying, sure we have to die, but how we die, whether we die peacefully, the best. I think in Japan there are these temples people go to pray to. They pray for a peaceful death. That means what they wish for is that they just one day sleep, roll over, and then they die. That's the best way, right? So rather than you die in pain and sickness or whatever the case may be, the best is to die peacefully. If you can die in your sleep, that's the best actually for most of us. So how can we ensure a peaceful death for ourselves? Actually we can if we follow the advice of the Buddha. Buddhism also gives us some advice on how to face death, how to attain a peaceful death for ourselves, no matter what the circumstances. Even though you are sick, even though you may be in an accident, even though you may be in great pain, but if we follow the advice of the Buddha, we will actually still be able to have a peaceful death for ourselves. So this is some pictures, as you can see, all these funerals carrying the coffins. I think this is a typical Chinese funeral. And then I think quite nearby here. Sorry? Here only, is it? Oh, okay. So I didn't know, I just pulled it up from the internet, so by coincidence it's quite nearby here. So you can see all the people, everybody follows the casket as they go, I assume, towards the crematorium for the cremation. These are the typical coffins, so this is something which we all have to lie in one day, we all have to sleep in this one day. Typical Chinese coffin, I think they must weigh a ton. So Chinese coffin, we also have some Catholic coffins, quite nice actually, with a cross and all these beautiful designs. So not only that, modern coffin, very comfortable, right? But actually not bad to sleep in this. I think there's some centers in Thailand, like this meditation place, where you can practice lying down in a coffin. So to get used to the feeling, of course most people are afraid, they don't really want to do it, but there are some places, especially in Thailand, where they take this quite seriously. They let you try practicing in the coffin, even to the extent sleeping with a dead body and all that. So you face all these things directly. There are these pictures of all these accident victims, all broken up bodies. It's really quite gruesome, quite gory. Some they even practice that they sleep with a corpse that is decomposing. If you can overcome this, then you really have made some great progress in facing death, because you see it after a while, you get used to it. Even for myself also, I'm sure you all know this ECG chanting group, right? We go to wakes and chant for these deceased people. So when I first joined, also quite worried, quite scared, see all the coffin, the dead body, all that. Then dare not go too near, and then go back, must have something, wash the face straight away, change the t-shirt. So a bit afraid, but now you get so used to it. Every time you go, you see the coffin, you see the corpse, you touch the coffin, you go close by. Then after you just go home like nothing like that. So you walk in and out, you're so used to it, it's not a big deal anymore. So anyway, if you're interested in all this, you can check with Sister Adeline how to join this ECG group. I would highly recommend, because they do some Pali chanting, some contemplation on that. You see the body coffin up close, so you get used to it. Anyway, this is a very comfortable coffin. I don't mind. You can also have different designs, half glass, full glass, different colors, different types of wood also. IKEA, so you can buy coffin now. So you can get this from IKEA. Not only that, modern coffins, you really have all these different shapes you can choose for yourself or for your relatives. Even much more than that, crazy coffins. So there's this company in UK which makes all these coffins to order. You can make it in the shape of a car, many different things. So you go and check out the website, it's quite cool. Yeah, it's crazy coffins, so all these different designs. So they want to make it something which is out of the ordinary, and which I guess helps to overcome also the people's fear of death. Colorful coffins, many different types of designs, make it brighter. And for those who have Apple iPhone, got Apple iPhone coffin. Okay, so this is just to give a light-hearted view of these caskets, these coffins, just to show that it is part of life, and even society nowadays is beginning to accept this. So some reasons why people do not have a peaceful death. Why some people have a peaceful death, why some people have a really unpeaceful death, to put it nicely. One of the most common reasons is remorse over the bad things done, regret that you have done a lot of bad things. I mean, if you regret a lot, if you did a lot of things wrong in your life, surely you cannot really have a very peaceful death, because you'll be thinking about all those things which you did wrong. I mean, for example, some people, they are successful in business, but in the process of being successful in business, they may have done harm to many other people. Maybe they cheated their brothers and sisters out of the business. Maybe they were not so ethical. They did harm throughout their lives. So this is one of the things why people do not have a peaceful death. There's a lot of regret, a lot of remorse over the bad things which they have done. The other reason is regret that they did not do enough good things. Like some people, they are wealthy, they had a chance to help maybe their relatives, they had a chance to do humanitarian, to do some good deeds, but they did not, because they are too attached to their possessions, they are too greedy for this and that. They want more, so they are so greedy and so attached. How can they even think of doing charitable works, humanitarian works? So some may regret at not doing enough good things throughout their life when they had the chance. Other reasons are clinging to life. Some people, they really have a strong attachment to life. They cling to it so strongly. If you cling to life so strongly, obviously you cannot let go. You cannot have a peaceful death. Of course, many people have strong attachments to their possessions and their loved ones. The more you have, actually the more difficult it is to let go. Like some of these very wealthy people, there's so many properties, so much assets, so much wealth. So how can they let go? It's a difficult one, right? Because when they die, they have to go on either to their next birth or to the unknown. They have to let go of all these familiar things. So the more you have, actually the more difficult it is to let go. So this is something which we have to keep in mind. It may be a good idea as Buddhists that as we grow older, slowly, whatever we have, we divest to our children, our relatives, to some humanitarian activities or charities. So as you pass away, as you grow old, the less you have, maybe it is easier for us to pass away. And of course, the most common is the worry about what happens after death, because nobody knows for sure. Even we Buddhists, we also don't know for sure whether there's rebirth. We don't know 100% whether there's a rebirth or what's going to happen, or whether there's anything at all. So not to say for us, for ordinary people who are not practitioners, certainly they really worry about what happens after death, what's going to happen. So these are the reasons why people do not have a peaceful death. Okay, so let's look at it from a Buddhist perspective. How do we have a peaceful death? The first point just now I mentioned, remorse over the bad things done. That you may have done a lot of negative things, harmful things throughout your life. So as Buddhists, throughout our lives, what we should do is really not that difficult. Try our best to keep the 5 precepts, or at least try our best to avoid hurting other people. Because if you keep the 5 precepts, you do not harm other people. Of course you have a peace of mind, right? Your conscience is clear. Your mind is clear when you pass away. You don't have these things disturbing you. So the solution is avoid evil. To cut a long story short, to avoid evil, to overcome this factor about remorse over bad things done, just simple. Keep the 5 precepts, avoid hurting others. Just simply avoid evil. So the other thing, regret at not doing enough good things. I'm sure you all can guess. So what we should try to do is try to be as compassionate and help others whenever we can. Try to do as much as we can throughout our lives when we can. Now we are healthy, young, we have the means, try to go out and help others. Like I held this course at Mangala Vihara last year. So there was this person who brought out this story. I think you remember last year there was this one-night tiger or what, right? He killed somebody in Singapore, then he ran away to Malaysia, then they finally caught him, right? So then he was supposed to be hanged. So eventually he was hanged. But apparently one of the participants in the class last year that attended the course was, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the police officers. So he told us this story. Before you are due to be hanged, they will give you a nice meal to eat. They ask you what you want to eat. Then they cook anything for you to eat, right? Whatever you want to eat, steak, chicken, rice, vegetarian, whatever the case is, they cook you a nice last meal to eat. So as he was eating this last meal, there was a monk with him. A monk talking to him before he was due to be hanged after the meal. So this participant, he asked me, the person, this one-eyed tiger that was due to be hanged, sorry, it may not have been a one-eyed tiger, it may have been some other person before that. Okay, anyway, just to come to the point. So this person that was supposed to be hanged, he offered half the food to the monk to eat. So this person asked, should the monk accept the food or not? In other words, this person is supposed to be hanged in a few minutes' time. So he was having his last meal. Then the monk was with him. So he offered the monk half of his meal, the last meal. Should the monk accept the food or should the monk decline the food? Okay, who say yes? What time? I don't know. I think maybe probably in the morning. Probably in the morning because I think it's probably in the morning or at night, because usually they hang people at 6 or 5 a.m. or something like that. Okay, but usually it's the morning. Okay. So, who says the monk should not accept the food? Majority say should accept. Okay, why? Anybody want to volunteer a reason? You all say should accept, must have a reason. Want to volunteer? You all say yes, and don't know the reason. Last chance to give dana. Last chance to give to do a charitable act. Okay, very good. That's precisely the answer. Because this is the last chance he can possibly do to do any kind of action. Because throughout his life he's done so many bad things, he even killed people. So at the last minute, this is the only thing he can do. Just offer food to the monk. And of course the monk must accept the food. The monk cannot don't accept the food. This is what I explained to that participant because he did not understand. So some people say, the monk should not accept the food. But you all are here, this group is quite good. You are quite smart. Yes, the monk must accept. The monk do not accept the food. Because if the monk declines the food, then he deprives that person of this last chance to do even this charitable act. So, coming back to this point. So you see these people, when they're about to die, they can't do anything else. But for us, we have many years to live, hopefully decades to live. So we should try to help others as much as we can. And then as we pass away, we can recollect these good deeds. We are comfortable, we are happy, and then we can pass away more peacefully. This is another reason. Try our best to be as compassionate and help others whenever we can. So obviously the solution is to do good. So these are a few other reasons. Clinging to life, as I mentioned, strong attachment to possessions and loved ones, worry about what happens after death. This is actually due to ignorance, due to confusion. The solution, of course, is to purify our minds through meditation. It's only through meditation, it's only after we practice meditation that we can train our minds to be calm, train our minds to see things as they really are. Because if a person who is untrained in meditation, as he approaches death, if he's aware, there will be a lot of confusion, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. His mind will be very messy, think this, think that, a lot of worry. So the thing is to practice meditation, to train our minds to be calm, to see things as they really are. Because if we do not see things as they really are, we will always suffer all these things, clinging too much to life. Because it is a fact, like I mentioned at the start of the talk, right, that it is a fact that we will have to pass away. But some people cannot accept this, very difficult to accept this. But one of the things we can do is to practice meditation, calm our minds, see things as they truly are. Then all these things will not affect us so much, like strong attachment to possessions and loved ones, worry about what happens after that, because we just focus on the present moment as we are meditating, and then we don't worry so much, because it's your mind running here, running there, that is the cause of your fear. So we try to practice meditation to calm our minds and to see things as they really are. So to purify our minds. And what this is, to ensure a peaceful death, what do? The solution, the first one, avoid evil. Second one, do good. The third one is to purify our minds. And what is this? This is none other than the advice of all the Buddhas. Avoid evil, do good, purify our minds. So you can see how Buddhism encompasses many, many different situations, even to the point of having to face death. If we can follow this simple teaching, this simple advice of the Buddha, it will also help us as we fall sick, as we grow old, as we pass away. So this actually will ensure a peaceful death for ourselves under any circumstances. The key words here are under any circumstances, because some people, unfortunately, they may die in an accident, they may die in sickness, in great pain. But if you have already practiced this throughout your life, you avoid evil, you do good, you purify your minds, no matter what the circumstances you are going to die, the chances are you will still manage to have a peaceful mind, a calm mind, and that means that you will have a peaceful death. Even though some people, they may die at home, but if they are not trained in this manner, then not necessarily they will have a peaceful death also, because their minds will be running here and there, they will regret, they will have remorse. So even though you may outwardly have a peaceful death at home with your loved ones, all that doesn't mean that you really have a peaceful death. But if we do these things, if we follow the advice of the Buddha, if we do all this, follow the advice of the Buddha, avoid evil, do good, purify our minds, then chances are, no matter what the circumstances, we will still be able to have a peaceful death. So there are 5 things we can contemplate every day, which will also help us to have a peaceful death. Okay, what are these 5 daily contemplations? The first one is we contemplate that we will grow old. That means we just visualize ourselves growing old, growing. So then the other thing is we remind ourselves that we are subject to illness. We are healthy now, but of course no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So we are all subject to illness. Thirdly, of course, we remind ourselves that we will die. We can just visualize ourselves maybe lying in a coffin if you are not too afraid of that. If you can come to that stage, this is not a big deal. You just visualize yourself approaching death, dying, lying down in a coffin. Anyway, this is what I do. The next thing we have to recall is we will lose everything we hold dear. Everything we are attached to, it will be taken from us. This is a fact, because when we die, we will lose everything. We will have to go through the next rebirth, the next life. Everything we have, everything we are attached to, we will have to let go, whether we like it or not. And the last one is to remember, to recall that the only thing we can bring with us to our next life is our karma. Not any of our loved ones, not any of our possessions, not any of our wealth, not a single cent, all our property, all that. Everything we have to leave behind. The only thing we have is our karma. So if you contemplate on these 5 things daily, or at least occasionally, this will help us when we have to face death eventually. So what is the minimum to ensure a good rebirth? Now we face death already, right? So we want to have a good rebirth. So the minimum, we are not talking about keeping the precepts, I'm not talking about meditation, I'm not talking about all those other perhaps more advanced practices. Now we're talking about the minimum. This is something also you can share with your friends, your relatives who may be getting older, even those who may not be getting older, because this will help them if you tell them how to ensure a good rebirth. Of course, you don't really talk about rebirth if they are not Buddhists, but you can still explain to them. So the minimum to ensure a good rebirth in the Buddhist context, number one is don't deceive people, don't tell lies. Don't lose your temper, don't get angry, because it's through this you hurt people, you hurt yourself. And finally, the last one is help others whenever you can. Quite simple. These three things. This is something very simple. So this is something you can share with your friends, your relatives. Don't tell lies, don't lose your temper, help others whenever you can. That's about it. Very easy. The minimum to ensure a good rebirth. Simple. So that's it. Very short talk about how to face death. Any questions on this topic?
White lies.
Okay, white lies are untruths which you tell, which you think may not harm others. Like husband and wife, for example. Usually husband get put into this difficult spot. So the wife asks, have I put on weight? Am I fat or not? So the husband, of course, cannot say, you put on weight, you're fat, sure get scolding. So the husband may tell a white lie, say, oh, okay, you still look okay, you still look quite slim. This is just an example of a white lie. Actually, you can think of others. These are untruths which you tell in order not to hurt other people. But I think for practitioners, you also try to avoid these things. Try to avoid lies. Because a white lie is still a lie. It's still something which you deceive people. Like I mentioned just now about the example of the husband and wife. The husband is still telling something which is not true to the wife. So how are you going to do it? I don't know. You're going to think for yourself. So for me, generally, I just mumble something. Or then I change the subject or think of something else to talk about. So you can try to avoid that. Of course, if you can't, then try to minimize it. That's the only thing I can say. Any other questions?
How about, they say the last hot moment before you die is important.
Okay, the last thought moment is very important. Okay, there's several views on this actually. In the Theravada context, because of the teachings in the Abhidhamma teaches you that your last thought moment will determine where your next rebirth is. So in Theravada Buddhism, because of the Abhidhamma, the last thought moment is very important. You don't forget that even in the Abhidhamma, every single second there are millions of thought moments passing through your mind. So to know which is the last thought moment is impossible. So what the Theravada Buddhists do, according to the Abhidhamma, is that as the person passes away, they will have the monk come and then do some chanting, try to make the mind peaceful. In Sri Lanka, what they do is that they will recite, the person who is about to die, they recite all the good things that he does so that his mind is calm and peaceful as he passes away, and then hoping that the last thought moment will be positive. But like I said, every second there's millions and millions of thought moments. So if your karma is no good, if you have done a lot of bad things in your life, even though the monk is chanting to you, even though your relatives are around you, chances are your last thought moment will be negative. And that will determine your negative rebirth. Even if the conditions of your death are not favorable, like accident, you die in pain. If you did a lot of good things, chances are your last thought moment will still be good. So the thing is that don't pay too much emphasis on this last thought moment thing. What is more important is what you do throughout your life. Yes. Yeah, continuing the practice throughout our life. Because if you do a lot of good karma, then because of your good karma, you are supposed to be reborn in a good condition. So by itself, that will condition your last thought moment. If you do a lot of bad things, then your karma is supposed to lead you to a negative rebirth, a bad rebirth. So that will also condition your last thought moment to have a negative rebirth. So you don't worry too much about this last thought moment. This is very heavily emphasized in traditional Theravada Buddhism, especially those people that follow the Abhidhamma. But like I said, this is something which you should not be really too concerned about. Because if you practice consistently, we really don't have to worry too much about this last thought moment. It's your continuous action. If you do a lot of good things, that will also condition your last thought moment to be good. If throughout your life you do a lot of bad things, that also will condition your last thought moment to be bad, no matter what happens at the situation of your death. What is more important is all the karma you have accumulated throughout your whole life, not just the last thought moment. Because it doesn't really make sense also. If you do all the good things in your life, you avoid bad things in your life, then your last thought moment, as the people who study Abhidharma claim your last thought moment is bad, then you're reborn in a hell realm, also doesn't make sense, right? So what is more important is the things you do throughout your whole life. Don't worry too much about this last thought moment thing.